Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I'm Joe.
And today, we're going to be throwing Motel Hell onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims. If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a like and subscribe, being sure to click the bell. You should also go to our kind of chintzy looking website at this point.
It's a quality website, and we're very proud of it.
We give you
brainworms.com. Are we referring to it as a web?
Charlotte's
This will allow you to take a look at our other projects and link you to our Patreon and our Discord community channel. There's usually one of us messing around in the Discord channel, so you can come hang out with us.
Yup.
So, Motel Hell. High concept,
Yes.
high art.
Oh, man.
Just
Artsy
life-changing.
fartsy, more fartsy
Yeah.
than artsy.
More fartsy than artsy.
JD, why don't you give us a synopsis overview?
Most certainly will. But first, Motel Hell was released October 18th of 1980 with a runtime of 102 minutes, a budget of $3 million, and this film grossed a little over $6.3 million at the box office. So yes, the synopsis overview.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
Snap into your Slim Jim.
Nice.
Oh yeah, brother, snap into a Slim Jim. A rural family-operated hotel also happens to have a food stand known for its self-proclaimed world-famous cased meats.
Well, 100-mile radius.
Yeah, but you know, the farmer, what was his name? Vincent. How could I forget? Farmer Vincent, you know, had that self-proclaimed notion that he had the world-famous meats.
Yeah.
And some great prices, I might add, even for 1980.
Yeah, $2.99.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a steal.
Yeah, for a bucket of smoked meat.
Human flesh, yes.
And pork.
Yeah, a little bit of pork too. So
I wonder what the ratio was. The movie didn't really clarify it.
well, his recipe was a secret. Remember when he punched his sister in the stomach when she almost spilled the beans?
Protective of it, yeah.
Yeah, that was his baby.
It's like
anyway,
the 100 herbs and spices.
Yeah.
After much success and a long string of disappearances, a local sheriff suspects foul play behind the hotel farmstand's booming business.
I don't feel like that properly. I don't think that explains it at all, JD. I think you're projecting an idea here.
Yeah. I don't think there are enough drugs to really properly explain Motel
this
Hell
film
without seeing it with your own eyes.
All I'm saying is that the sheriff didn't suspect shit until his brother was about to marry the girl he was interested in. That's
true.
Yeah, he was a very hands-off type of sheriff.
He was the worst.
Yeah. He had some strong, creepy vibes, though. He
had some super creepy vibes.
Yeah. And surprisingly, Vincent was fairly respectful, but except for, you know, being a murderer and a cannibal.
Right. Well, you know, there's a scene. I know that we're still in the synopsis, and I'm interrupting you finishing this, JD, but
That's okay.
I wanted to say there's a scene where he's talking about there's too many people and not enough food. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing addresses both of those problems.
Yeah, he was down to curb world hunger, take out people that he perceived to be shitbags. You know, he was on top of stuff. You know, he was cleaning house.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, factually not true. There actually is more food and resources than we actually need. And it's the fault of capitalism that there's not enough food.
Yeah, they'll throw it away instead of give it away.
Yeah.
And I kind of took this as a shot toward, I know that we are animals, but it was a little shot toward animal agriculture in a sense, sort of replacing those cows, pigs, chickens as meat. Well, I guess pig was part of the recipe, but I feel like, Vincent was trying to maybe take a shoe size down from the carbon footprint we're all leaving, you know?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's what his intentions were at all.
Well, I'm projecting again.
Yeah, I think you're projecting.
Shall we talk about the director of Motel Hell?
I don't want to talk about
Who was the
Motel
director,
Hell.
JD? Shut up, Joe. Just shut your stupid,
you don't have to be
gorgeous
that
mouth.
harsh, Kane. That's a foul way to treat your friend.
Get it? Because there were chickens in the movie?
Yeah. I'm going for it every time.
I'm glad that happened.
Last week was masturbation jokes. This week's going to be farm jokes.
There was a Guns N' Roses song on the Spaghetti Incident called Down Here on the Farm.
You listened to the Spaghetti Incident?
The only thing I remember from that song is where everything smells like horse shit down here on the farm. That's I have actually been on farms that don't smell like horse shit, so I don't know what specific farm Axl Rose was going to, but I have been to farms that don't smell like horse shit. I've also driven through a state, and the entire time I was driving through that state, it smelled like pig shit. So
you're the only person I know that's actually listened to that record.
Ant farms don't smell like horse shit. Just saying.
Especially alien ant farms.
So yeah, right.
Fucking both of you tonight? Really, both of you?
Yeah, we're both on a
I'm going to have to put a stop to that right now. Right? It's either JD or Joe. You both can't. You can't become an amorphous, bizarro creature of JD Joe. All right?
JD Joe.
It's a cosmic horror podcast tonight. Joe and I are one, and we are wreaking havoc on the humor.
Somebody Brundle-flied the two of us.
Oh, yes. That's awful.
We are fused.
And you're just not nearly as a fused being, as charming as Jeff Goldblum is.
True.
We're joined at the sack. Anyway, Motel Hell was directed by Kevin Connor. Connor was born in King's Cross, London, England, July 14th, 1937. Alive and well, as far as I can tell, at the fresh, vibrant age of 83. Connor left school in 1953.
I just got to say, all right, so when you say someone's fresh, vibrant age of 83, we all know that you're full of shit. Like, they're old as fuck, but that was very kind
Not
of you,
if you're
JD.
a Twinkie.
That was, okay.
What?
No, just keep going, man. What? Yeah. He was born when, and I'm sorry.
I'm going to go.
You can't go, Joe.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
Trapped.
Anyway, Connor left school in 1953 to pursue work in documentary filmmaking. I'm going to get back to that, though, and talk about what he's best known for.
Okay.
It's basically his work over a series of fantasy, adventure, sci-fi films during the 70s. Titles such as The Land That Time Forgot in 1975, Trial by Combat in 76, At the Earth's Core, also in 76. The People That Time Forgot in 1977. Sounds kind of like a sequel to the other film, but I'm not sure. Warlords of Atlantis in 79. And Arabian Adventure, also in 79.
Did any of those films have shirtless barbarians in them?
I would guess so.
I feel like at least one of them did.
I feel like that's a requirement.
Yeah, for a 70s fantasy adventure.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
As I was saying, Connor started his career in documentary filmmaking, but nothing much blossomed from that for him. So he found himself working as a sound editor in several British films during those years, the 60s and whatnot. Connor worked alongside directors Tony Richardson, Dick Lester, Richard Attenborough.
Wait, who Lester?
Dick Lester.
Dick Lester, huh?
Yeah. Richard Attenborough.
That's a name.
Abe Polonsky and Michael Kekoyanis, I believe. Anyway, probably the largest film he contributed toward as an editor of sound was titled Oh, What a Lovely War, and that came out in 1969. These experiences led Kevin Connor toward his first big break and his directorial debut. With gratitude toward producer Milton wow, I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to go ahead and try it.
We believe in you. You got this.
Stabotsky, I believe. Milton Stabotsky.
Stubutsky.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, the film that he got his first big break was titled From Beyond the Grave in 1974, which is an anthology horror film based on the stories of Chetwynd Hayes. I don't know much about that, but it sounds quite interesting. Not a whole lot of horror titles here for Kevin Connor. However, he did direct The House Where Evil Dwells in 1982. Connor also worked in some TV miniseries stuff, but none of it was horror. So, moving on.
Yep, paint stick.
The producers of Motel Hell are the brothers Robert and Stephen Charles Jaffe, son of Herb Jaffe.
Jaffe?
The Joffinators.
Yeah, they
like
joffied the hell out of this film.
They joffied it hard.
Yep. I felt joffied, actually, when the credits were rolling.
Yeah. This movie joffied the hell out of me.
Yeah. Dude, I'll be
Nice.
honest, while we were watching it together, it sounded like you were being joffied over and over again.
Yeah, I got joffied hard.
Huh.
I've never been joffied like Motel Hell joffied me.
Right.
It certainly is quite joffious. An American producer.
God, we're dumb idiots. We made ourselves
I'm gonna go
laugh,
ahead and
and that's what
start
matters.
with Robert Joffe, born in New York City. Go ahead, boys.
New York City.
There you go. I couldn't find a year on that. Robert Joffe, an American producer, actor, and screenwriter, best known for his work on Motel Hell and Night Flyers of 1987. That one was written by George R. Martin.
Huh.
So Robert produced the film and the TV series of 2018. Night Flyers also had a little TV series.
The TV series, I didn't watch all of it, but it seemed pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. So anyway, Robert and his father, Herb, actually purchased the rights to Night Flyers from George R. Martin in 1984. So they actually own that. Let's see, what else? Robert did a bit of acting in a horror film titled Creature in 1985.
Oh, yeah.
He portrayed the character of John Fennel. Robert's screenwriting credits include Demon Seed of 1977, Motel Hell, Scarab of 1980, also 1980, that's when Motel Hell came out, and Night Flyers of 1987. I'll go on and talk about Stephen Charles Joffe a bit.
Right on.
I'm assuming he was also born in New York City. He was born in 1951.
He was also a Joffe of a different type of Joffe.
What?
Yeah, little different.
He did
type
a lot of
Joffe.
Joffeing. Right?
Oh, yeah. He joffied his own way.
Another variety.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that guy, you have the original Joffe, and he produced 2 other Joffes, and those 2 Joffes joffied in a very unique way, each of them.
Sure.
It's a whole new strain of Joffe.
Takes different Joffes to move the world.
Like a Joffe
Exactly.
mutation.
I mean,
Yeah.
sorta. We're just going to see a lot of different Joffes, and I think that was apparent in this film.
Right. Anyway, Stephen Charles was best known for working on films such as Motel Hell, Near Dark in 1987, and the film Ghost with Demi, Whoopi, and Patrick.
Classic.
Yeah.
I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am.
Yep.
You feel all right?
That's what the Swayze does
No, I know.
to
I know,
convince
I know.
Whoopi Goldberg's character to do his bidding.
Yeah, I was just trying to give you the
I know what you're
silent
trying to
treatment
do.
like you do.
Does anybody else feel
Anyway.
a little bit ashamed?
Of what?
This and everything that we've done.
No, actually, I've been doing good things lately. So
That's true, yeah.
I don't know if it makes up for what we've done.
Nearly 100 episodes of fucking spew that we've regurgitated onto the world.
Are you having some
Well-
kind of weird existential crisis, Joe?
I'm always having some kind
Do
of
we need to
weird-
have a conversation
Yeah,
after
this is
the
not
podcast?
new.
We were actually talking about existential crises during Brainworms earlier today, and the real weird one that I had the other night related to salsa.
You know what? I will really want to dive into that, just not right now.
Yeah.
Is that just because I said New York City?
No, it was unrelated to that.
New York City?
I can't even with this.
The kids are going to have no idea. I don't think they make Pace commercials. I don't even know if they make Pace Picante
Yeah.
Salsa anymore.
I
They
mean,
do.
most of
It's
the
still there.
content that we make is for the 30 and over crowd, I think.
Sure. Well,
I
let's
don't
not
know if that's
exclude
true,
anyone.
Let's not exclude people.
I mean,
all right?
not
Yeah.
by design. Like, anyone is welcome to listen to our
Welcome
content.
one and all.
It's
one and
just
all.
the references that we make,
Right.
I don't think are going to be funny to most of the people not in that age group.
It's because we're old fuckers.
But the people that get it, get it.
Get it, got it, good.
You're going to
So
get
anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump back here on Stephen Charles.
it. Jump
as,
back now, y'all.
He has a longtime friendship with Catherine Bigelow, and as I had mentioned for the Near Dark episode, she's the beloved wife of pro wrestler Bam Bam Bigelow.
God damn it.
Couldn't get enough of that joke.
I bought it for a second too when he first told it.
For a second, I felt the tension, rise behind the microphone.
Yep. Felt your sphincter clench a little bit.
Yeah, I thought I heard it actually. It was like, wow, that's tight.
Just creating washers out of the chair leather.
Anyway, yeah, it's a joke that I beat to death. But listeners, if you're still with us, go check out the Near Dark episode. It's and we're sorry. Stephen Charles Jaffe produced The Fly 2 in 1989.
Which is
Ghost,
garbage.
as I'd mentioned earlier, that came out in 1990.
Some cool special effects, but not a good movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's a couple gory scenes, but I think once Cronenberg stepped away, then it kind of got.
Yeah, they should have stopped.
Yeah, I'm with that. Anyway, Stephen also worked as the producer and second unit director in 1991 for Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And Herb Jaffe got a credit as an executive producer, but I'm not sure exactly what executive producers do. They might just get penciled in to get a little payday or something. I'm not sure exactly how that goes.
Don't they have to invest some amount of money?
Maybe that's it. Maybe he just said, here you go, boys. Love ya.
I feel like that's a thing we should know since we run a movie podcast.
Hold on.
Well, we've never mentioned executive producers before. There have been many executive producers that I haven't mentioned.
An executive producer is the person who sources and secures the financing for a film, either through a financing company, through a studio, or by doing it out of pocket.
All right. Great job, Dad.
Not sure how to feel about that, but okay.
No, I don't think you're my dad.
You think Herb Jaffe is the Jaffe's dad?
Oh,
That's right.
You're talking about Herb Jaffe.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because Herb Jaffe was the executive producer.
I thought that you were saying that to me because I looked up.
No.
And that was very confusing.
Yeah, I'll bet. Unless you got like a little Back to the Future time machine, like you got a DeLorean. No. Okay. Anyway.
This went at places.
Yeah, it's going. It's moving about.
I mean, it's the energy that Motel Hell deserves. I feel.
It is.
It kind of, it really truly is. Anyway, that's my coverage of the director and producers. So if Joe would kindly talk about the writers.
Well, real quick. So from now on, are we going to talk about the executive producers as well, or was this a special occasion?
No.
Because
I feel like
Herb
only
Jaffe,
when it matters to like the production cycle of the movie,
or if the dad of
right.
the producers was the executive. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
yeah. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. I need to add that into my
It was just another type of Jaffe to talk about.
Right.
Mention all these different
Jaffes.
All the Jaffeing.
Kim, the description of this episode in YouTube should just be Jaffe. Yeah.
Joe, tell us about the writer.
Yeah. This movie was Jaffe'd all over. The credited writers were the Super Jaffe brothers.
There was so much Jaffeing.
So much Jaffe. But there were two uncredited writers, which is weird. I'm not entirely sure.
That means that the Jaffes didn't actually write it. They just took credit for the writing?
I think it could be that, like, they, in at least one of the two instances, that maybe they brought in a ghostwriter and then, like, look, we're going to give you however many of our dad's dollars. Just let us copy your homework.
Nice.
I think might have been the situation.
No, it's like more of a bullying type thing. That's how Jaffes operate. They were like, look, here's how this is going to work. You're going to write this movie for us or you'll never work in this town again.
Well, Kane, see, here's the thing with the Jaffes, though. They can't actually write or speak words. All they can say is Jaffe. So they're like, Jaffe.
But they can understand and read.
Yeah, they're like Pokemon. They can only say their own names.
Oh, man. Now, does Herb Jaffe suffer from that as well, or is it just his
Jaffes?
Okay,
well,
all
clearly,
Jaffes. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, it's a thing.
But yeah, uncredited writers. The first of the two, who I suspect did a lot of the actual labor of writing this movie, was Tim Tacrello, who is primarily known as a sound editor.
Interesting.
Which may tie back into the other sound editor that was heavily involved in the creation of this movie. There might be some kind of a relationship there.
Maybe the Joffies owed their sound folks some branching out. Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe. But his entire, work is sound editing for the most part. He has like 3 writing credits, Motel Hell, for which he was uncredited, a short film that he personally wrote and directed called Monster on the Outside.
Okay.
And then something else that isn't horror, so who cares?
Right.
He has a shitload of credit as a sound engineer, including Quarantine, which I'm not allowed to talk about. Passion of the Christ he did sound editing for, which is definitely a horror movie in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
He did sound work on the Hostel films and Zombieland as well, which are actual horror films.
I mean, that's all torture porn except for Zombieland.
It's true. Maybe he really likes editing just the sounds of pain.
Like meat being slapped. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, lacerations.
I support that.
Oof.
I support that.
Yeah. And then the other uncredited writer was Frank Catolo. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
He'll come for you if you aren't, so.
Born in Brooklyn, New York, he's the head writer and personal friend of Wolfman Jack. I suspect that he wrote the Wolfman Jack dialogue that was throughout the movie.
Okay, I'm here for that.
Yeah. Aside from that, who knows or cares? That's all I've got for writing. Aside from Joffies.
I mean, I care, but that's cool, We'll just move on. Cinematographer.
Yeah, and this is actually like an
Excellent.
actual filmmaker who did primarily the thing that they were credited for in Motel Hell. I'm going to talk about the cinematographer, if I must. Cinematographer Thomas Delruth, born May 1st, 1942 in Beverly Hills. The son of producer-director Roy Delruth and musical comedy star Winnie Leitner. Your boy grew up on film sets and developed a love of cinema and cinematography. He served in the Army in the 60s as a paratrooper.
Nice.
Which whenever I see the word paratrooper, I think of those plastic, like, dollar store soldiers with the parachutes attached to them. You throw them up the end, they'd come back down.
Those are awesome.
God damn it. What is wrong with me then?
What did you think of when I said paratrooper?
I imagined a bifurcated human walking around with guns.
That's weird. Okay. Just going to let you stew in your own eccentricities for a minute.
Oof, now it's like a dinosaur with guns. All right, let's move on.
But yeah, he served in the Army as a paratrooper, came back, dabbled in acting and modeling, but eventually followed through with his true passion, enrolled in USC Film School. What is described in his biography is that he had a chance encounter with the head of the camera department at 20th Century Fox. Given that his entire family was in film, I'm inclined to not believe that it was a chance encounter.
Yeah, he slipped and accidentally fell into the career he grew up around.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily seem like
chance encounter, huh?
Yeah, a coincidence.
Like he was eating lunch at the guy's fucking table. It's like
right.
A chance encounter.
Maybe at a party that his father was involved in some way. Like, I don't know. It just seems a little convenient. Is all I'm saying.
Those chance encounters, know.
He has about 6 horror credits, none of which really look terribly interesting. Shit like Impulse, which I've never heard of.
Okay.
This House Possessed, whatever. He also worked on The X-Files, The Running Man, and The Breakfast Club. Whatever. I don't know. Cinematography.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'm done.
Nice.
All right, so then I guess we'll just move right along. All right, so the actors I'm going to talk about now. One of them, there's a whole bunch of shit to talk about. So Rory Calhoun, who was quite the salesman, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
He played Vincent Smith, or Farmer Vincent Smith.
I think he just had a quality product.
I mean, there's that. There's that. He was born in L.A. on August 8th, 1922. His actual birth name was Francis Timothy McCown, and he spent his early years in Santa Cruz, California. He was the son of a professional gambler.
Not the son of a preacher man?
No, professional gambler.
I guess kind of the opposite.
Yeah. When he was 13, he stole a revolver and was sent to California Youth Authority's Preston School of Industry. That sounds fucking horrifying.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah.
Preston School of Industry It was a reformatory. And
right.
He actually escaped while he was in the adjustment center. That's finger quotes for adjustment center, which was pretty much just a jail within a jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At some point, he ended up back at home living with his mother, and he, at 17, ran away to escape an abusive stepfather. Started hot wiring cars. He robbed a bunch of jewelry stores and stole a car and drove it across state lines.
Huh.
He was sentenced to 3 years in a federal penitentiary and ended up serving his sentence at the United States Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri.
Wow.
He was paroled before his 21st birthday.
This guy's punk rock, man.
Hell yeah, he is.
Yeah, he did not fuck her. He had a troubled youth, guys. That's what they would say.
Mm-hmm.
Or he was a troubled youth. So how he acquired his first screen test was that he was out shirtless horseback riding.
As you do.
And a man saw him, liked his physique, thought he would make a good actor, and the man's wife was a talent scout. And was like, hey, wife, go look at this shirtless man on the horse. Let's make him into movies. And that started his acting career in 1944.
Quick call out to aspiring actors. This was a unique scenario. If you're out doing something in your everyday life, shirtless or otherwise, and someone says, hey, I like your physique, I can put you in pictures. Maybe check them out first.
Mm-hmm.
Because that sounds like a sketchy scenario to put yourself in.
Yeah, make sure it checks out first before you get in the car.
Before you get jaffied.
Yeah, you don't want to get jaffied. All right, try to avoid any situations that could result in a good firm jaffying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he got his screen test in 1944 and started his acting career. Most of his movies are Westerns. When I was going through the list of shit he's done, it was pretty much all Westerns.
He had a Western vibe to him.
Yeah, and there was a few dramas kind of thrown in there. He was kind of lauded. He's a fairly well-known, like Rory Calhoun is a fairly well-known Western actor.
I've heard his name.
So shit must have gone south for him to end up in this movie.
Maybe he was just bored.
It's possible. Yeah, maybe he was tired of being a Western guy and wanted to be a psychopath in a pig hat.
But we all do.
An actual pig head.
At some point, His horror credits are The Red House, which was in like 1947, and Motel Hell.
Right.
Next, we have Paul Link. Totally wasn't in on it. Was just inept. And he was Sheriff Bruce Smith. Born in New York on May 6, 1948, he was actually known for his role as Officer Arthur Artie Grossman in the TV show Chips.
Oh, yeah.
He mostly played kind of everyman roles. His pop was Richard O. Link, who was the personal manager of Andy Griffith. So, a lot of nepotism surrounding Hollywood. His horror credits are Motel Hell, Shrunken Heads, War Dog, and Fallen Angels. Next up, we got Nancy Parsons, Meat's Meat, and Man's Gotta Eat. And she played Ida Smith.
Well, she was quoting the grandma when she said that.
It's not the point, JD.
That's not the point. She says, meat's meat, man's gotta eat. She said it like that.
Yep,
she was born on January 17th, 1942 in St. Paul, Minnesota. Her acting debut came in a film called I Never Promised You a Rose Garden.
I beg your pardon.
JD will be stoked because, and he probably already recognized her for this, but JD was probably stoked because she portrayed Beulah Ballbricker in the Porky's movies.
Oh, yeah.
Her horror credits are pretty much just Motel Hell. Next up, so this is Nina Axelrod. She was way into older dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And she played Terry. She was born in New York on July 28th, 1955. She really only appeared as an actor in films and television during the 70s, the late 70s and the early 80s. Since the early 90s, she's pretty much exclusively worked as a casting director on films. And she's been a drama teacher.
Oh, nice.
Her horror credits include Motel Hell, Critters 3, and Time Walker. I have seen 2 of those movies. I need to see Time Walker just to check them all off. You know what I mean?
Right on.
Next, we have Everett Creech, and he was not a very good motorcyclist. And he played Bo Tulinski, who was her previous old man before being into Vincent. He was born on December 24th, 1933 in Kansas City, Missouri. His horror movie credits are Near Dark, Motel Hell, The Car, Prophecy, Gargoyles, The First Power, The Dark, Man's Best Friend, Embryo, and Wheels of Terror. So while there's not a lot about him out there, he was definitely in a shit ton of horror movies. Next, we have Joe's favorite, Wolfman Jack.
Wait, what?
He'll save your soul for half price. And he played Reverend Billy. Yeah, Wolfman Jack. He was your favorite, right?
That was a horny dude, man. Remember when he confiscated the sheriff's hustler?
I mean, he can't, be seen buying porno.
Yeah, so he's got to shame people into giving him porno. He was born in Brooklyn, New York on January 21st, 1938.
It's like the porno equivalent of, are you going to eat that?
It is. Are you done with that? He was an American disc jockey. He was famous for his gravelly voice. He was quoted talking about it saying, "It's kept meat and potatoes on the table for years, for Wolfman and Wolfwoman. Couple of shots of whiskey helps it. I've got that nice raspy sound." His horror credits include Motel Hell and Midnight. I don't really follow disc jockeys, nor have any particular love or hate for them, so I didn't care. Elaine Joyce Pinchot played Edith Olsen, who was the lady that there really wasn't a safe word. There wasn't much about anyone else, so born in Cleveland, Ohio during a year at some point. She made her film debut in 1961 as an extra on West Side Story, and she made uncredited appearances in several films. Her horror credits are Motel Hell and Trick or Treat. So Trick or Treat was like an 80s metal horror movie with like Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons playing minor roles. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
And then the other folks that I'm going to talk about are John Ratzenberger. He really just makes a cameo as Long Pig. Like he's just there to be made into jerky. But if you watch this movie and you watched any television in the 80s, you would realize that he was the mailman know-it-all, Cliff Clavin in Cheers.
Nice.
Then next we've got, just because this is awesome, we had Roseanne Catton and Monique St. Pierre. Both were Playboy centerfolds, and they were captured by Vincent.
What a weird movie.
While driving. Yes, it was a weird movie.
Like exceptionally weird.
I mean, the movie was exceptionally weird, but like the weird fucking cornucopia of actors it got.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely bizarro mode.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the beginning of the 80s, so what do you expect? Everything was fucking weird in the 80s.
It's true.
And that's pretty much all that was there for actors. I mean, you had Ivan, the Terribles, the band, and you had a bunch of other people that, honestly, I didn't see enough about them or horror credits to make it matter, except for John Ratzenberger. So next, we're going to talk about the score. You ready for this? Because this is pretty extensive. We have Lance Rubin. I found 0 on him. It's just his work. Nothing about where he was born, what he did before film scoring. It's just his work. And it's honestly, if you're doing film scoring, that really should be the only thing you care about.
Right.
But his horror movies are Motel Hell, Happy Birthday to Me, Hexed, and The Ghost Rider. And that's all I have to say about that. JD, why don't you tell us about the special effects?
You got it. Let's see here. Special effects and horror makeup. That would be Adams Calvert, Born at a Place and Time.
I'm glad we had similar situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Calvert started his career in 1980, the same year as Motel Hell came out, with a film called Carney, starring Scary Busey and Jodie Foster.
Oh.
Not much horror for Calvert. A sci-fi flick called Space Raiders in 1983, and My Demon Lover in 1987.
I feel like that's come up before, My Demon Lover.
Yeah, we've named it a few times. Another film that Calvert was involved with was The Further Adventures of Tennessee Buck, and that was 1988. And that's about it on Calvert. Another special effect artist to talk about was Ted Corner, again, born in a place at a time. Very ambiguous there with the lack of dates and places for these people.
It's
anyway,
fine. None of this matters.
Well, It's debatable, but he almost exclusively worked on TV shows doing special effects. He worked on The $6 Million Man, Roots. There was a horror movie or two in there, one of which was called Nightwing. That came out in 1979. Then he kind of was back to TV work with MASH, Fantasy Island, Knight Rider, and then a pretty well-known film, Scarface, in 1983. And that had some decent bullet holes and blood in it. So,
Sure.
Yeah. Then back to more shows. He went on to do Quantum Leap, Married with Children, and then later 80s, he did Psycho 3. That came out in 86. Yeah, exactly. And I saved the best for last because, in my opinion, this was a treacherous movie, but it had some pretty fun stuff in it. I mean, I'm telling you.
I was actually going to ask you, if I can interrupt real quick. Do you know if they used actual pig parts in the movie, or were those just prosthetics of some kind?
I'm assuming those were prosthetics. You know, it would probably be more expensive to keep that from spoiling. And then I couldn't imagine Calhoun actually putting like a formerly living pig head over his own head. You think he was up to that?
Yeah, I think he had it in him.
Yeah. So anyway, the last film that Ted Koner had done some special effects work on was the Garbage Pail Kids movie in 1987.
Nice.
God, it was so gross.
I could honestly be up for watching and talking about that at some point on this podcast, just because there was some gruesome, vile vomit and lots of pus, and it's pretty fun, at least in the special effects department. Not much of a plot there, not much of anything else to speak of other than some marvelous costumes and prosthetics. Anyway, yeah, as far as this film goes, the fake blood, it varied a little bit. I found the dried blood to look fairly realistic, yet the fresh blood, if you were paying close attention, there were a few different viscosities, one of which appeared to be thicker, and it looked like almost like a red paint. It was almost a very inaccurate portrayal of blood. And then there was another slightly more viscous, kind of like Caro syrup-esque type of fake blood. And that did a little bit better by my standards. But a lot of the prosthetic work was, the replication of the animal parts. And a lot of the wounds on the human harvest, the people involved were, the ones he was making sausage bits out of. He was almost treating them like a cabbage patch, burying them up to the neck and cutting their vocal cords so they couldn't, cry for help. And those wounds were, so-so, but they bandaged them quicker than you could really. They left a lot to the imagination in this film as far as, some of the horror went, as far as like the wounds and the graphic nature of it, until the very end. A lot of the film, like we had mentioned during the watch party, the nudity was backloaded, and so was a lot of the gore. They kind of like, this, I think because of the nature of the film, they wanted this to be like almost like a horror comedy, and so they saved the goriest bits. Basically, at the end of the film was the grand finale of gore, and I felt like that worked. The chainsaw fight was kind of cool, but the wound wasn't very treacherous.
Well, I mean, the original screenplay by the Jaffies was rumored to have been much darker than what we got.
Mm.
It was rumored to be far more violent, and there was even supposed to be some pig fucking in it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Jaffying, you mean?
Yeah, there was some pig jaffying that was supposed to happen. And then Toby Hooper was originally slated to direct the film.
Their dad told them they couldn't.
Their dad said no. Dad, you ruined everything. How are you going to Jaffe this up? All right, we got Toby Hooper. He's going to direct this. All right, don't you Jaffe with us. And then their dad was like, get the Jaffe out of my office and hire somebody else.
We're so dumb.
So yeah, that's all I got on
fight was good. I had fun
special
with the chainsaw
Jaffe, on the Jaffe effects. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything much to speak of other than the prosthetic pig bits and a few superficial wounds, some fake blood. Everything else was very straightforward.
A trash can full of blood and fake limbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that was a sufficient amount of blood in that can for me. I enjoyed that. It almost looked like a gooey, blood-based soup filled with body parts.
Right.
Yep.
And that was, pleasing for my taste in, horror films.
And that ending chainsaw wound to the side was pretty good, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I thought that lacked a little luster, honestly. I felt like that could have been a little deeper. They could have,
had more blood spraying out.
They could have been doing acrobatic backflips like a lightsaber fight.
I liked the exposed fat. I think that's what really drew my attention to that final wound, is that it cut through his clothes and then there was just fat and gristle that was hanging off the side. And I thought that was fun.
Sure.
Yeah. I like how, you get to the end of the movie and you think Vincent has this like epiphany about the way he lived his life being a religious man. And then, he's just like, oh, I used preservatives.
You know what? Since we're done with special effects, let's go ahead and talk about our personal experience with the movie, because I'm really interested in what Joe's personal experience with this movie is.
Yeah, we've spent almost an hour talking about this movie like it was a movie with a plot and a beginning, a middle, and an end. It didn't feel that way watching it.
It was pretty goddamn jaffied.
It was jaffied as hell. And I'm inclined to blame this on the direction. The actors weren't acting like people. There were weird tonal shifts. It was a comedy horror, but it wasn't funny or scary. It was like the experience of having a bad fever, taking a bottle of cough syrup, and having just an odd Robitussin fever dream in the Smoky Mountains.
That was lean. That was not Robitussin. That was like some lean.
Sure. It almost felt like outsider art. Like someone who lived independently of mainstream civilization, trying to recreate what they understood a horror movie to be.
It's like if you stood in the mirror and drew a portrait of your face over your own face.
Like they didn't understand how humans acted, or really how movies were meant to be made in a lot of ways. So they just made Motel Hell. Human language can't describe the experience of watching Motel Hell.
Yeah, you have to watch it. That's really the only way to do it.
It was so weird and not in a way that I feel like I can explain.
Right. No, that makes sense. Like when he turned on the spinny hypno machines.
Yeah, and like
where the fuck were we?
And like the moments when the tone and even the score would shift to like trying to feel like a Lifetime romance.
Yes,
like it had that, or like a family drama. Like it had that energy. I don't know. I don't.
I think what I would need to ask: how do you feel? Having watched this movie,
I don't know how I feel. I don't know who I am.
Joe, do you feel like maybe you're a little jaffied now?
I feel a little jaffied, yeah. I feel just jaffied all over.
Right.
Deep inside, I've been
We'll
jaffied.
try to finish this episode up so that you can, kind of sit back and just jaffe for a bit.
Yeah, okay? Yeah.
Well, he needs to de-jaffe.
Need to de-jaffe, yeah.
All right. Is that all you really have to say about your personal experience with this Jaffe?
That's all that can be said about my personal experience with this Jaffe. Like, I'm trying to find words to explain how Motel Hell made me feel, and I just can't.
Right. Well, just here. All right. Well, let's work. Let's go to JD. We'll ask him about his personal experience. You just kind of sit back and Jaffe for a second. And try to kind of let loose some of this Jaffe.
That makes sense.
JD, why don't you tell us about your personal experience with this Jaffe?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. My first personal experience with Motel Hell came quite some many years ago. I remember seeing this movie, I want to say I was like a freshman or a sophomore in high school. It was one of those things where definitely pulled that one out of Blockbuster and brought it home for the weekend. And
did you pull it out of
had a
Blockbuster
time.
and Jaffe for a minute?
Yeah, I may have. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Blockbuster was notable for its jaffing. So
yeah, it was a jaffied up place.
Sure. And I probably bought a bag of Jaffies to go along with it, and Anyway.
Snap into a Slim Jaffe.
And a Red Baron pizza.
I would never eat a Red Baron pizza. Mine was always Tombstone. That was my jam.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I've recently was talking about Red Baron pizza, so I mistakenly mentioned that instead of your Tombstone pizza.
Not even Totino's party pizza for JD?
No, not so much.
That's a little Jaffe, Joe. Maybe let's just let him finish talking about his experience.
I'm sorry for inner Jaffe.
It's okay. We got this weird energy tonight, and it's all matching what we've just experienced together. So, yeah, I think in a weird place in my mind, I had put this film up among my favorites in horror.
You had.
For a long time. I spoke very, very highly of the film. I still hold it in a high esteem, but it's changed in my mind. I think like as time passes, we sort of tend to either glorify something in our memory or make something worse. And I think that was the case for this film. I think I remember it to be just like this magnificent thing. And so I've always just told people, I've been like, oh man, you need to see Motel Hell. If you haven't seen it, you got to do it. I think I even lent my DVD to a few people, and
they demanded an explanation.
So you've kind of just spread a bit of Jaffe out.
I was trying to spread the Jaffe around. Yeah,
JD, you're going to start a Jaffe plague if you keep spreading your Jaffe around.
I'm like one of the prophets of Jaffes.
You're like the patient zero of Jaffe.
Yeah, something like that.
So where do you think it stands with you now, ultimately, like when having rewatched it with us?
The film has changed in my mind. I want to say after reviewing it tonight, now I'm sitting in my hot-ass apartment in my underwear recording a podcast. I'm quite miserable right now. I'm feeling some type of way about tonight. And the movie didn't sit as well with me tonight as it has in the past. I felt kind of like I was more critical. And maybe it's because we've been watching horror movies together on the regular. I feel like my bar is rising for my expectations. Oh, yeah? And yeah, I know that sounds
I've noticed that too, man. I've noticed that too for myself.
Do you feel that way as well? Like you just expect a little bit more. And then when you see something that you remember differently, you almost kind of feel like a little
cheated,
deflated at the end, you know?
Yeah,
I
still
love
Jaffed.
This movie. I felt like I've been Jaffed tonight.
Yeah.
I still love the fact that, you know, Farmer Vincent had the pig head and chased people around with the chainsaw. I felt like that was a strong moment.
That was pretty good.
I mean, that brought me home. You know, I was feeling pretty Jaffe
really
at that point in the movie. And then
there's your warm hug
for me.
I was too Jaffed by that point.
Right.
I was so over Jaffed that I just couldn't even really process.
Is it Jaffe or Jaffe?
It doesn't matter.
You don't think it matters?
The pig's head prosthetic was cool, though.
Yes,
that was phenomenal. And so to, conclude my personal experience, I would just say that I did not watch this horror film with my grandmother. I regretfully, a lot of my most fond memories were horror films that I had watched with her. And I could say for sure, her and I never watched this one together. We watched many, many, many horror films together, but we didn't watch this one. So I think that is also kind of like me realizing that. I know that's kind of like a sort of a strange point to sort of jab at the film with, but it doesn't have
the nostalgia.
Yeah, it doesn't have quite the nostalgia. And now that I've seen it, and my cement's totally dry, well, at least I think it is. Now I'm seeing it through my adult eyes and brain. I'm feeling kind of like if any horror film was gonna be remade, I would say somebody might want to try to give this a stab, because I feel like when Rob Zombie remade Halloween, like totally fucking unnecessary. If you're gonna do something, why don't you do something like this?
I almost want to see Rob Zombie remake Motel Hell.
I don't. We already saw
that's not a bad idea.
What it would be with fucking House of a Thousand Corpses.
I mean, you're not wrong, but Motel Hell was already such a clusterfuck that it would almost be interesting to see what Rob Zombie would do with that.
I'm trying to... Who would Sharon Moon Zombie be? Would she be the sister or would she be the love interest?
Probably the sister, so she could act all weird.
Okay.
Like she likes to do.
Yeah. Well, JD, does that kind of sum up your Jaffe about this Jaffe?
Yeah, I'm all Jaffe'd out. How about your personal experience with the film?
Yeah, I'll Jaffe about the Jaffe a little bit.
Jaffe on, brother.
Jaffe on, Wayne.
I had seen this movie in the late 80s. I remembered almost nothing about it. The only thing that I really remembered was the chainsaw fight. Like, that's it. That's the only thing that really kind of stood out from my memory.
Mm-hmm.
I've never watched it since then. I had this image in my mind, if this makes sense, because this is a classic. This is referred to as a classic, right? And so I had this image in my mind of what we were getting into tonight. And I was totally taken by Jaffe. And the amount of Jaffe that went into all of this Jaffe was pretty Jaffe. So I feel like that's the only way I could describe my experience with this Jaffe, is that I'm feeling fairly Jaffe'd right now.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't really know where to take it. I feel like now I'm going to have to take this Jaffe somewhere. But I would like to talk about a few of the Jaffiest moments in the film. I would say that, hands down, like, the weirdest fucking part in this movie, I talked about it with Joe a little bit during his Jaffe, but when Farmer Vincent ties those ropes around those poor Jaffe'd guys from Ivan the Terribles,
yeah,
and then he sets up the fucking swirl discs with the red, green, yellow, and blue light.
Mm-hmm.
That Jaffe'd be pretty decently. So I was just like, what
the
fuck is going on?
There were so many moments like that. Like the swinger couple. Like what?
Yeah, that was such a weird fucking move.
Is that what the Jaffes thought that people who have sex act like?
Well, I think it's what they thought that people that were into kink act like.
I guess.
Right. They thought they were on their way to Funky Town and like no such thing happened.
Like it was so just surreal, and like it feels almost like, again, like some kind of weird outsider art, like a John Waters film, where it was just so bizarro and abstract and nonsense. Now I'm back on a tear. That I want it to have been done that way on purpose. Because otherwise, one of two things is happening. Either the Jaffes feel like that was a funny joke, which raises questions.
Right.
Or the Jaffes feel like these are accurate representations of these kinds of people, which also raises questions.
Or a very clever way to extract $6.3 million out of the American public in 1980.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had a time machine, this is how I would waste that power. Is I would go back to theaters in 1980 when this movie was released, October 18th, 1980. I would go to those theaters and I would just wait outside and I would record reactions from people, because I really want to know what the people leaving the theater thought.
Yeah.
Like, were they as Jaffe'd as we are? Because I feel pretty Jaffe'd right now.
I feel pretty Jaffe'd.
I'm assuming that the audience was pretty Jaffe'd at the end of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of
curious. Is it
curious.
just me, or do you guys feel like Smurfs right now?
I like that you said Smurfs.
I feel pretty Jaffe'd. I don't know about Smurfs.
Because everything is Smurfy to them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
To me,
it makes me really happy that the plural of Smurfs in the world of JD is Smurfs. That's amazing.
Smurfs?
I love that you said that.
Oh, sorry. Should it be Smurfs?
Smurfs is what the show is called. But
Yeah.
I
Alright,
like
my bad.
like Smurfs better.
Yeah, Smurfs.
And I like that you said it that
Smurfs
way.
sounds like the edgy adult version of Smurfs.
Sure.
Like the fucking Smurfs SVI,
I guess it makes sense being the edgy adult that I am.
The edgy reboot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Smurfs.
The Smurfs.
Instead of being like la 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 la, la, it's just la 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 la.
Sounds like doom metal.
Yeah. But no, so there was a lot of scenes in this movie that I felt, there was never a point where I was following the story and really pulled into it.
Right.
That's what I would say about this movie. There was never a point where I was following along, and I can't say that there was ever a point that I was bored, because I was so Jaffe'd that there's no way, like, bored doesn't describe it. I wasn't in a great place. I wasn't like stoked that we were watching this at certain points, but I also wasn't like bored. It was trying to find meaning in all of the shit that was happening in front of me. I think that's really what it was.
Yeah.
I was just gazing into the Jaffe, and I'll be honest, man, by the
Did the Jaffe gaze
thing.
back into you?
The Jaffe gazed back into me, and
hell yeah,
that's
Nietzsche.
where I stand.
Yeah,
but that's my personal experience.
I feel like this movie would give you something to unpack, and then right as you would finish, then there's like something else to unpack, and you're just kind of like, okay.
Well, see, that's the thing is I feel like that's the insidious lie that this Jaffe tells, right? This movie makes you think, oh, I probably missed something, and that I need to watch it again so that I can try to pick up on those subtle details. Those subtle details aren't there. Nothing was masked. Nothing was hidden.
Yeah,
it was exactly what it was. It was just fucking Jaffe, all right? Hey, you know what? If you watch Jaffe us, Jaffe think. You can Jaffe us at wegiveyoubrainworms.com as well as Jaffe, the Jaffe podcasts live. Send us a Jaffe or Jaffe. Also, and this is important, we warn you against forgetting to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube.
And Jaffe the Jaffe.
Or Jaffe us. And don't forget to send me pictures of your Jaffe in Instagram's DMs.
Yeah, especially if you have a real big hairy Jaffe. JD would definitely like to see that.
Or if it's like an oozing Jaffe, or if there's Jaffes on the Jaffe, that's another thing.
Right.
A moist Jaffe. JD likes
and normally I don't feel like we do this in Butcher Block, but I'm gonna extend an apology because I think we may just have Jaffe'd the person that listens to this episode.
This episode definitely had, it was Jaffe to hell and back, but it definitely had brainworms energy, I think.
It did. There was some Jaffe in this.
Yeah.
So. All right. Much love, folks.
Jaffe.
Au revoir. Bloop, bloop. Jaffe. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Jaffe.